In a brutal takedown on GB News, Jacob Rees-Mogg destroys Labour's Angela Rayner over her shocking tax avoidance hypocrisy. While preaching higher taxes for you, she's been using sophisticated loopholes to avoid paying her fair share. Her £800,000 property deal and £40,000 stamp duty dodge have been utterly exposed. This is a socialist minister living by one set of rules for herself and another for the hard-working British public. The contradiction is unbelievable. You won't believe the lengths she went to hide the truth. This scandal proves they cannot be trusted. First off, a massive cheers for all the support. After our last shout-out, the channel picked up 2,000 new subscribers in under 10 days. Absolutely brilliant. We honestly didn't see that coming. We're buzzing about it, and it's given us the push to aim for the next milestone. 10,000 subs. So, if you haven't jumped on board yet, hit that subscribe button and join this little family that's growing thanks to you. And don't forget to check the description. We've popped a few links down there if you fancy supporting us even more.
Tax avoidance is perfectly legal. Tax evasion is illegal. As the great Lord Clyde said, no man in the country is under the smallest obligation, moral or other, so to arrange his legal relations to his business or property as to enable the Inland Revenue to put the largest possible shovel in his stores. A view I completely agree with. We shouldn't let the Inland Revenue, or HMRC as it now is, put a shovel in our stores, and no Tory ought ever to be ashamed of minimising his tax liability. But socialists follow a different creed. This is why Angela Rayner is under the spotlight again. This time it's stamp duty and council tax. The Deputy Prime Minister is facing scrutiny after buying a new property in Hove worth £800,000, paying around £30,000 in stamp duty. But in January, before making the purchase, Ms Rayner may have removed her name from the deeds of her £650,000 Ashton family house, avoiding a second home surcharge of up to £40,000. So Ms Rayner said on Friday she's now divorced from her ex-husband with whom she bought the property, and transferring legal ownership of the family home to her ex-husband and a trust for their children meant that she no longer owned another property, resulting in a significantly lower stamp duty bill. Indeed, it's absolutely brilliant. It seems to be one of the most successful tax planning operations I've recently heard of, and that's, of course, something I support. Not only has Angela Rayner minimised the stamp duty payable, but she's maximised the death duty allowance on the transfer to her children. If she pays market value to rent the house as her constituency property, there will be no GROB, which is the tax accountant jargon for a gift with reservation of benefit, and therefore it's out of her estate for death duties. Ms Rayner, of course, insists that all her affairs have been conducted properly and within the rules. And that's great. That's the law of the land. But she's a socialist who supports higher taxes for all the rest of us. There's nothing wrong with people wanting to keep their own money. Most viewers of GB News do. There's nothing wrong with wanting to ensure the money you earn is spent on what you choose, not what the government chooses. However, the difference is Angela Rayner and the government she serves represent an ideology that wants to tax you more. Indeed, her desire for higher taxation was leaked earlier this year, in May. She lobbied the Chancellor to increase property taxes, increase stamp duty and tighten inheritance tax, a hat-trick of taxes which she herself is so adroitly avoiding. Ms Reeves herself likes raising taxes too. Just look at what happened earlier when the Chancellor posted a video of her talking to schoolchildren about their plan for change. Observe her reaction to being asked about taxation.
I've been hearing about you in the news that you like taxes.
Well, she looks as if she's been offered sweets, Fox's glacier fruits or something like that. The excitement is palpable. And there's nothing objectionable about wanting the government to take as little of your money as possible. But when you are part of the government which wants to take people's money, the hypocrisy is impossible to defend. Former Conservative MP and Minister Sir John Redwood and the former Labour MP Stephen Pound. Stephen, let me come to you first, because actually I think Angela Rayner is a charismatic, capable force, is a good face of this government. But you really can't be advising the Chancellor to raise taxes in areas which you are then minimising your tax in,
Well,
can
hang on
you?
a second. Yeah, she wasn't advising the Chancellor. She came up with it's this thing that they had back in May with sort of brains trust operation. I think about 20 different ideas. They're just looking at different options. But look, I think your point about Lord Clyde, and I have to say it's marvellous how Lord Clyde mentioned on you. I would just think of Ken Dodd saying that he didn't pay taxes because he didn't think the Inland Revenue applied because he lived on the coast, which I think is quite a good idea. But look, the optics on the Angela Rayner thing are tricky. There's a couple of things. Firstly, the valuation of her house up in her constituency is precisely, by glorious coincidence, exactly at the right level to avoid paying that additional tax. Secondly, there's the issue of should a person live in their constituency? At the moment, she's saying her principal home is in Hove, but she's got the Grace and Favour place, which John Prescott had, and many Tory ministers have had in Admiralty or in similar places. So should she be living there or not? And I think what kind of sums it up in the eyes of the public is a cartoon in one of the papers today, which showed her in a greenhouse throwing a stone through the glass.
Needs to think very carefully before using those kind of arrangements.
What would you expect her to do to explain the situation? There's a story that she can't say anything about it because it's subject to a court order. But as she's a Member of Parliament, she could make a personal statement in the House of Commons which is exempt from all of that and could explain every detail if she wanted to.
Of course she could. But I mean, every single politician since the dawn of time who's been accused of something like this has actually recused themselves from making a statement on the floor of the House. Once you get into that situation, then it really does become incredibly intrusive, and I think it's very, very difficult. I think what she needs to do...
Yeah, but she doesn't have to answer questions. She just makes personal statements.
There's a couple of basic questions, where she registered to vote and, which is the primary residence. But as far as I'm aware, she has actually stated that.
You can be registered to vote in more
any
than one
number
place.
of places.
So that's
I agree.
That's
As long as you
problem.
don't actually vote there. Yeah.